Kobe Bryant's career featured two separate peaks that most players only dream of reaching. There was the three-peat with Shaq, and then back-to-back with Pow. But in the valley in between, we can find a solo act for the ages and a transcendent moment that started Kobe and the Lakers back on the path to the top. Bryant for the win is something that we heard quite a lot in his Hall of Fame 20-year career, 8 times to be exact, which is a fitting number, I'd say. But this shot in the first round of the 2006 playoffs may be most memorable not for what it meant in the moment, but for what it marked in the long run. The Lakers came into the 05-06 season having missed the postseason for the first time in a decade. More specifically, Kobe Bryant had never failed to reach the playoffs.
He wins 3 with Shaq, and the ugly way that tandem ended.
Forcing LA Brass to pick. They, of course, chose Kobe. Shaq went to Miami, and the Lakers franchise sat squarely on the shoulders of Kobe Bean Bryant. Carrying the load meant gaudy numbers for Kobe that season. He had 6 games with at least 50 points. The most memorable one being on January 22nd, 2006.
The whole crowd started standing up and the game was in hand and everybody wanted to see me get to 80. And I just remember thinking, man, I better not miss these free throws.
81 points for Kobe. It's the most points scored by one individual in a game since Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points.
You know what? I couldn't even dream of this when I was a kid. There's just no way possible.
He was on a mission. He was the best player in the league that year. He should have won the MVP. He was robbed. He was feared. He was feared by everyone. He was cooking. He was cooking.
Now, Kobe may have been slanging, averaging a career-high 35.4 points per game in the regular season, but the Lakers had no depth, and there was formidable competition everywhere.
It wasn't an easy year because, there were a lot of good teams in the NBA that stretch, and Phoenix was one of them. Phoenix was a terrific team that was trying desperately to win a championship.
The Suns, the powerhouse of the league at the time. Steve Nash was running the table. They had Sean Marion, they had Amari Stoudemire, they had all the pieces, and Kobe was just going at them.
Which leads us to the first round of the playoffs, the 7-seeded Lakers versus 2nd-seeded Suns, which sounds a little familiar, right? Anyway, 2006, with all that firepower, it was Tim Thomas who keyed the Suns' Game 1 win and an uncharacteristically cold shooting night for Kobe.
It was just, a couple missed opportunities. But yeah, I feel good about it. It's kind of like got it out of our system. We're such a young team, and a couple of guys were a little nervous. But I'm glad Game 1's out of the way. Now we can come in here in Game 2 and just relax and play ball.
Game 2 saw the Suns go an entire 7.5-minute stretch without a point. Lakers drew even and then jumped out to a 2-1 series lead off a balanced team effort that saw every single LA starter hit double figures. And that brings us, of course, to Game 4, the crescendo to Kobe's Lone Ranger act. And, well, he didn't just hit us with one heroic effort, he doubled down. And he had to, because near the end of regulation, the situation for the Lakers was dire.
It was one of those games where you think it's not possible. They're not going to pull this out, and the series is going to get tied at 2 apiece. I think they were down 5 with like 12 seconds to go.
Parker puts up the 3. Parker puts it in. 2-point game. They'd love to get it into Nash's hands, and they do. Ball knocked away, stolen by Parker. Here comes George to Kobe Bryant. Bryant inside. It's good. It's good. Tie game. 0.7 of a second remaining.
Sending the Lakers to an improbable overtime where, again, it looked like Phoenix had the game won late.
Nash, a 3. Bang! Steve Nash from downtown. And the Suns back up by 3.
But no lead was safe when Kobe was in play.
He's going for the 2. Inside, quick score. So still plenty of time, a 1-point game. Nash coming up. Nash looking. Tied up. Reach in. The jump ball!
And then the pursuit of the ball off the jump, like that's a 50-50 ball. And nobody is surprised that Kobe Bryant came up with that ball.
And you could see it in his eyes. Like he had like that Michael Jordan type look that where his eyes were red, you know, would look like they've been smoking cigars all night.
Hold your positions. I'm coming in, I'm going up.
Walton could tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you gotta get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
That's what I'm talking about with the edge. Those slices of moments in an NBA game where he just seizes it and says, "This is mine."
I've never had one quite like this. You know, with our backs against the wall, you know, seemingly out of it, and us just battling back and getting this W. And I told him, I said, we matured about 10, 15 years today. And we did a lot growing up in this game.
After all the feels from that buzzer-beating high, the Lakers were hit with a dose of reality that Kobe alone just wasn't enough. The Suns completed the comeback and then dismissed the Lakers the following year in the opening round as well.
After that, Kobe was exhausted. And I think Kobe started playing chess with the Lakers front office. Remember, he came out and he requested a trade. I think it was to the Chicago Bulls. Well, we all kind of knew that Kobe didn't want to leave the Lakers, but it worked. They ended up acquiring Paul Gasol, and then all of a sudden, the rest is history.
The Lakers would reach the NBA Finals that very first season with Gasol, only to lose to the retooled Celtics. But 2009 and 10 saw Kobe hang more banners.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
The Lakers' gamble may have paid off in hardware, but it also led to one of the purest friendships in NBA history.
The first game in New Jersey, he was talking to me in Spanish and all the play calls and the coverages to gain my trust, to connect with me.
Dish to Gasol, lefty layup, good!
We did that perfectly. You're not behind me, you're not in front of me, you're right there parallel with me.
He had a very kind side, a very loving side. And I think that's something that I influenced him to in a way. So it's okay to be normal, to be vulnerable or soft at times.
Kobe will always be remembered as one of the game's best practitioners of hero ball. And it is a term that invites contempt, but at its most basic, it's about an individual simply putting on his cape and trying to save the day. And thanks to his skill and legendary Mamba mentality, Kobe often met that moment. But his true successes came when he had a little help from his friends, and this buzzer beater represents that duality. That by himself, he was the Mamba, but with support, he was a champion.